After my son yelled, "You're just dead weight," I smiled and revealed a life-changing surprise. Mary's heart dropped as the words echoed in her mind, sharp and unyielding. "You're just dead weight." Jake had spat that out with so much contempt that it felt like a punch to the gut. Hours spent scrubbing in at the hospital, putting others before herself, all for what? Her own son saw her as a burden? She fought the urge to retreat into silence, a place where her sacrifices felt valued by no one. Could he really think that? She gazed out the window of their little home, the sun dipping low, casting long shadows over a life built on hard work and difficult choices. The tension hung in the air like a storm cloud, and with each second, her frustration mounted. Did Jake not see her? The long night shifts, the budget stretched like taffy, every ounce of effort poured into nursing and raising him and his sister Ella. Alone they were all she had, and now her son, on the cusp of adulthood, was dismissing everything she stood for. As she stood in the break room at the hospital, the hum of fluorescent lights buzzing overhead drowned out the chatter of her co-workers. A chance conversation with an older nurse took a sudden turn, revealing a treasure her late father had left behind. When they spoke of legacies, Mary's heart quickened. Later that night, rummaging through a dusty box in the attic, she discovered the letter. "To Mary, my proudest creation." In it, her father spoke of the auto repair shop he built, a sanctuary of hard work, laughter, and the unmistakable scent of motor oil. But then reality gripped her again. The shop was drowning in debt, practically begging to be sold off before the bank took it away. Could she really turn it around? She imagined the eyes of men in coveralls, looking at her with skepticism as they handed her increasingly dismissive looks. They wouldn't see a woman who had fought all her life for respect. They would see an incapable mother pretending to revive a long-lost dream. More alarming was Jake's reaction to the news. She could already envision the disappointment, his belief that she was just another weight holding him back. "Mom, how can you even think about this?" The thought of it made her stomach churn, yet her determination flickered like a small flame. What if the shop was not just a business? What if it became a place of healing for them both? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Taking a deep breath, Mary decided she would share it all with Jake. She needed to make him understand that reclaiming the shop meant reclaiming their family, showcasing the strength he believed was drowned by her. Sitting him down, she practiced her words, but the moment he walked in, everything slipped away. "I found something, Jake," she started, her voice trembling with unspent energy. The blank look on his face chipped away at her resolve, emotions swirling as she delivered the news of his grandfather's shop. His confusion morphed into doubt, and Mary felt it seep through the air between them. "Are you serious? You think you can run this place?" The snap in his voice felt like daggers, uncertainty permeating the space. Her heart raced, a tumult of fear and anger crashing together. "This shop is part of our legacy," she fired back, battling the sting of her tears and the weight of her worth. As Jake's eyes darkened with skepticism, the reality of their diverging dreams settled heavily around them. Would this be the bridge between them, or the final blow? The car roared by outside, an unsettling reminder of the shifting tides in their lives, leaving both Mary and Jake caught in an aching silence, barely holding on to hope. The silence in the room was suffocating, a heavy blanket pressing down on Mary's chest. She could feel Jake's eyes drilling into her, each moment stretching into eternity as she searched for the right words that seemed perpetually out of reach. Did he truly think so little of her? Was the bond they had shared eroding into nothingness before her very eyes? Mary shook her head, stumbling over her emotions. "Jake, I need you to listen. This isn't just about the shop. It's about showing you that I can take control of my life again. It matters not just to me but to us. I don't want to watch you fail," he said, bitterness lacing his tone. "What makes you think you can do this? Don't you have enough on your plate?" The jab was sharp, but it went deeper than mere words. It struck at the core of her self-worth, the insecurity she carried throughout her life. How did she find herself here, On the defensive with her own son. Was she slowly morphing into the humiliation of someone who couldn't keep herself afloat? His voice continued to rise. Yet the chaos around them also birthed an urge within her, a determination to fight for everything she believed in. This is my chance to prove that I'm more than just a nurse. I want to rebuild our family. Build something that lasts, she argued, trying to keep her shaking voice steady. But the storm brewed on Jake's face, anger transforming into a frantic pleading. You don't get it. I'm going off to college soon, and I can't be worrying about you failing. What will that do to Ella? To me? You're all we have. With each word, the weight of their situation pressed harder. A flood of emotions crashed over Mary: anger, pride, desperation, but also clarity. What if Jake's reaction was just a reflection of his own fears? If she didn't change the narrative now, she risked letting him define her destiny. Jake, this could be a new beginning, not just for me, but for both of us, she breathed, her voice tapering into a whisper. I want to work with you. I want to show you that we can do this together. She stepped closer, hoping to bridge the chasm between them. Imagine the possibilities. We could restore the shop, make it our own. You could learn and I could mentor you as I learn too. This isn't just my legacy. It's ours. He turned away, pacing the small living room and pinching the bridge of his nose, a physical manifestation of his struggle. Mary watched him, realizing that amidst the tension, he was fighting a battle of his own. And in that moment, she recognized her growing resolve. She wasn't just fighting to reclaim her father's legacy. She was carving out their future. Please look beyond what you see, she implored, searching for a flicker of understanding behind his dark clouds of doubt. I want this shop to mean something again. I want it to be a haven for both of us. As his anger simmered, the pause between them morphed into something promising. The air changed, an electric charge lingering. Could this be the fragile beginning of understanding? Or was it yet another step toward devastation? Jake turned to face her, the anguish twisting his features. What if we tried? But if it doesn't work out, he started. Yet her heart raced at the prospect of hope, kicking her fears to the side. Then we evaluate. Together. Her heart thudded in her chest, a tentative bridge of possibility stretching before them. What if he could see her not just as a burden but as the tenacious woman she was becoming? But as a thought crept in, what if she failed? The familiar grip of doubt wrapped around her mind, threatening to swallow her whole. Yet something shifted. She didn't want to merely survive. She wanted to thrive. By once again allowing herself to hope, she felt a rush of empowerment. We can face this, Mary said softly, locking her gaze with his. In that moment of fragile connection, she remembered her father's words, the spirit of determination igniting in her. Turning the shop around would take everything she had, and maybe she would stumble, yet there was strength in rising after a fall. Jake stared into her eyes, torn between fear and a flicker of optimism. The weight. It might just lift, he replied slowly, as if calculating his own acceptance of her journey. Was this the bridge that led to their healing? A quiet question hung in the air, but it wasn't about getting answers, not yet. It was about daring to hope, to take each precarious step forward. As they stood in shared silence, Mary felt her determination solidify anew. Tomorrow would bring phone calls, research, and endless late-night planning. But tonight, hope had sparked a shift that would change everything. She could feel it in her bones. The moment of truth was inching closer, and with it came a realization. The weight of the past did not have to dictate their future. But first, she had to confront those who may not accept her bold choice, a world beyond those wary men in coveralls who only saw her as a woman. Jake's offhand comment lingered ominously. Was she truly dead weight or just about to soar? Tomorrow would tell, but it would take courage she had yet to fully discover within herself. Mary stood at the kitchen counter, the first rays of morning sunlight spilling through the window and glinting off the worn wooden surface. It was a new day, yet her heart still raced from the previous night's conversation with Jake. She could feel the weight of his doubt hanging in the air, a tangible presence looming over her as she sipped her coffee, her mind racing. Today was the day she would begin the process of reclaiming her father's shop. The first step involved something practical yet monumental: calling potential suppliers for the materials she would need. The thought stirred both nerves and excitement within her, a potent mixture that fueled her resolve. The chirping of birds outside served as a rhythmic backdrop, a natural reminder that life persisted, that there was still time to forge her own path. As she walked through the cluttered living room, memories of her father's laughter danced in her mind. The way his hands moved deftly as he crafted shelves and restored the vintage furniture had inspired her to pick up a paintbrush countless times. Yet she needed more than memories now. She needed actions that would meet her intentions. She needed a plan. Dialing the first number, she hesitated, the tension curling in her stomach. Her heart thudded loudly in her ears, mirroring the self-doubt whispering in the recesses of her mind. This was a risky endeavor, and she had to face the possibility that she might actually fail. But there was also the promise of change, of possibly unearthing talents she hadn't tapped into in years. She breathed deeply before finally hitting call. The voice on the other end was brisk and businesslike, a stark contrast to the whirlwind of emotions that threatened to engulf her. After introducing herself and explaining her vision for the shop, she felt the initial layers of anxiety peel away. There was something liberating about speaking aloud her dreams, about articulating her desires clearly. The conversation flowed, and she even managed to gather a few pointers on affordable materials. After the call ended, she allowed herself a moment of quiet triumph. "See, I can do this," she whispered to herself, a hint of disbelief coloring her tone. She had pushed past her fears, and though her heart still raced, there was a growing sense of empowerment blossoming inside her. With each subsequent call, Mary felt herself shedding the burdens of self-doubt. She took notes diligently, jotting down prices, suggestions, and contact information, each page fuller than the last. As she completed her calls, a tentative smile began to form on her lips. She felt a connection to her father in those moments of focused determination, a fire igniting deep within her. But amidst the excitement, anxiety crested once more. What if Jake saw her attempts as inadequate? What if the men in coveralls dismissed her because of her gender? Yet another wave of resolve surged through her. She wouldn't let fear keep her silent. She had something to prove, not just to them but to herself. Her next steps took on a new urgency. She needed to visit the shop, to see the space that had been an integral part of her childhood. With each stride toward the old building, her heart pounded, the familiar ache of ambition coursing through her veins. Each step was a manifestation of the deep-seated longing to rebuild, not just the shop but her own identity. Upon reaching the shop, she stood before the entrance, noting the peeling paint and faded sign. The sight filled her with nostalgia and a renewed sense of purpose. As she unlocked the door, the smell of dust and aged wood enveloped her like a long-lost embrace. Stepping inside, she felt a powerful resonance, as if her father's spirit whispered encouragement, urging her to embrace this new chapter. Yet, doubt still lingered like a reluctant shadow. How would she face the old crew of workers who might remember her as only a daughter and never as a leader? The thought sent a tremor through her. Would they scoff at her attempts to take the reins? But she had sacrificed too much already. To give in to fear. She would confront her past with open arms, allowing it to fuel her growth rather than hinder it. As Mary began to plan the layout in her mind, a unifying clarity washed over her. This wasn't just about reviving a store. It was about reclaiming her narrative. She needed to apply for licenses, estimate renovation costs, and most importantly, she had to reach out to Jake and invite him to join her on this journey. The process had only just begun, but each small victory felt like a stepping stone toward personal liberation. Her heart surged with determination as she reminded herself. She was not dead weight. She was a force to be reckoned with. Determined to see the project through, Mary unexpectedly encountered one of her father's old business associates while leaving the building. The older man's eyes narrowed in surprise. Well, if it isn't the girl of the shop," he said, skepticism lacing his words. "What do you plan to do here all alone?" Ambition surged within Mary, but the voice of doubt clawed at her insides. This moment before her was an opportunity to rise, but would she crumble or soar? As their gazes locked, tension electrified the air. She felt the weight of their shared history and the challenge at hand. The stakes had escalated, and she needed to respond boldly. "Just you wait and see," she replied, her voice firm yet quivering slightly. In that pivotal moment, with courage threading through her veins, Mary resolved to reclaim her voice. But her response would shape the next challenge ahead. Would she solidify her newfound confidence, or would the specter of doubt weigh her down once more? Tomorrow beckoned with the promise of confrontation and revelation. The warmth of the sun hung in the air as Mary paced along the worn pavement that led to her father's shop, her heart still thrumming from her encounter with the aging associate. The girl of the shop, he had called her, a title laced with condescension that ignited a fire within her. She could feel it building, a flicker of something unyielding battling against the doubts that had once easily dominated her thoughts. Today she would confront everything head-on. Once inside the shop, the faded shelves beckoned to her like an old friend longing for revival. She wove through the aisles, envisioning how they could be transformed, filled with vibrant colors and renewed purpose. But each vision was accompanied by the echo of the associate's voice, urging her to doubt. This cognitive duel painted her surroundings in shades of both opportunity and apprehension. Could she truly restore this space, both as a business and as a tribute to her father? Mary grabbed a notepad, flipping to a fresh page. Her hands trembled slightly, not just from uncertainty, but from the electric sensation of creative potential. She needed a plan not just for the shop's renovations, but for herself. This project would require her to step out from behind her father's shadow and craft her own identity as a leader. It became clear that the first task was to build a clear vision, aligning her goals with concrete actions. As she wrote out a list of tasks, contacting more suppliers, gathering estimates, drafting a budget, an idea struck her. She would create a project timeline to visualize her journey. Charting the course from the first step to grand opening might solidify her resolve, transforming abstract anxiety into tangible goals. It would also grant her a sense of agency, a fight against the fear that threatened to unravel her newfound confidence. Without hesitation, she pulled out her phone, pausing only briefly to wrestle with the urge to consult Jake. Would it be better to keep this burgeoning vision to herself? Every instinct urged her to reach out for support. Yet what if he echoed the same skepticism as her father's old associate? Struggling with her mixed emotions, she reminded herself of last night's conversation. She had declared her intentions. Why not enlist him as a partner in this journey? A deep breath steadied her resolve and she tapped out a quick message. Hey Jake, can we chat later? I've got some ideas for the shop. I want you to be part of this. Almost immediately, she felt the weight lift just a bit more. She was no longer alone in this battle. She was inviting him into her narrative not as a subordinate, but as an ally. The day stretched on as she immersed herself in plans and preparations. She climbed a ladder to inspect the faded paint, ready to strip it down to the original wood beneath. This was not just renovation. Each scrape of the paint was like shedding layers of doubt. Instead of sentimentality, the prospect of creating a warming, welcoming space fueled her efforts, making each move feel like an act of reclamation. As she worked, the silence around her seeped into her thoughts. She smiled at memories of her father, of the laughter shared over spilled paint and debates about design choices. It was a paradox. The more she connected with the past, the more she understood the present she was trying to build. It was important to honor those memories, yet she had to construct a future that stood firm on its own. A sudden knock shattered her reverie, and she jolted. Opening the door, she found another old acquaintance, Greg, a contractor who had worked with her father. The surprise flickered in his eyes, soon replaced with skepticism. Mary, you're taking this on by yourself? Their shared history pulsed between them like a string pulled tight, ready to snap. Her resolved spirit flared once again. Not by myself, Greg. I'm going to breathe life into this place. All right then. Prove it. His voice conjured up a challenge, but she saw the hint of respect hidden beneath his bravado. She could feel the challenge pulsating in her veins. This was what she wanted. Every interaction was now a chance to reinforce her identity, as more than just the girl who was expected to crumble. As she faced Greg, her heart thrummed with anticipation. Would this moment ground her with newfound credibility in the eyes of someone who once respected her father? Or would it become another hurdle to overcome on her path to self-discovery? With newfound determination, she committed to showing him, both him and herself, exactly what kind of legacy she would forge. As the door swung shut behind him, Mary knew the greatest challenge loomed ahead. But the promise of revealing her true capabilities was now firmly within reach. The next obstacle awaited, and its implications would demand not only her fortitude, but also the realization of who she could become. Tomorrow she would execute her plan. Would she emerge triumphant, armed with new insight, or would the weight of doubt cling to her just a moment longer? Only time would unveil the answer. Mary woke the next morning with a sense of purpose resonating deep within her. She allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection, gathering the strength needed for the challenges awaiting her. The line between fear and action now blurred. Her identity begged to emerge from the shadows of her father's legacy. Today was not just about the shop. It was about finding her voice. After a hearty breakfast, one that she almost forgot in her mental drift, Mary reached for her meticulously crafted project timeline. It was time to take the first substantial step. Her fingers traced over the tasks she laid out. Contact suppliers, draft an official proposal, and outline a renovation timeline. The sheer enormity of it all startled her. But underneath the apprehension nestled a spark of excitement. She could feel the urgency. She had a story to write, one that went beyond plaster and paint. Stepping into the shop, the scent of aged wood and old memories enveloped her. She put on music, a vibrant mix of songs that matched her revitalized spirit, and threw herself into the tasks at hand. The rhythm motivated her, pushing away residual doubts. She reached for a paint scraper and began removing the old layers, revealing raw wood that felt alive beneath her hands. Each scrape was a subconscious declaration. She was not simply a caretaker of memories, she was a creator. Hours passed, but in that whirlwind of activity, she found solace. Each completed task was not merely marking off a to-do list. It was a small victory fueling her momentum. Then a thought tugged at her. What if she extended this momentum into the community? Local customers could become champions of the shop's resurgence. With an idea forming, she paused, mapping out her next move. A community day event could invite people to share their stories about the shop. They could help her with tasks, celebrate her father's legacy, and see in real time what this new chapter would look like. Achieving this might require more effort and communication, but she could feel the contours of her identity expanding as she integrated elements of leadership and community building. Tentatively, she drafted an online flyer, her heart racing at each word. What if they didn't show? What if no one cared? But what if they did? A flicker of hope ignited within her. It could bring a new sense of belonging not just to the shop, but to her as well. No sooner had she published the post than her phone chimed with responses. One after another, messages of encouragement filled her screen. People were interested. This was not just about her ambitions, it was about igniting a shared passion for a place once held dear by many. Fired up, she pulled her thoughts back to the timeline. Maybe she could incorporate feedback from those who stepped through the doors of the shop. Listening to their ideas would not only enhance the space, but it would weave a tapestry that held both past and present narratives together. However, the excitement wasn't without its shadows. A creeping realization of challenge washed over her. What would Greg think? The very person she felt could guide her with his expertise may view the community engagement as inexperienced naivete. Would he dismiss her vision or would he support it? As potential objections danced in her mind, she let out a long breath, redirecting her thoughts. This was part of the journey, the confrontation with skepticism. Mary needed to establish boundaries and commit to her vision regardless of external judgment. She wasn't merely chasing approval. She was forging her identity within the fabric of the shop. It was nearing dusk when she received a text from Jake, eager to meet later that evening. An unexpected surge of anticipation coursed through her. Here was her chance to share the plan, validate her vision, and cultivate a partner in this ambition. The weight of the moment crescendoed, amplifying her heartbeat. The impending meeting felt like the first breaking wave in a sea of uncertainty. In just a few hours she would face yet another test of her resolve. Would he embrace her vision and foster the idea she was eager to forge? Or would his reservations spill into skepticism, wetting doubt alongside the flames of her ambition? As the sun dipped below the horizon, she found herself standing at a new threshold. The time had come to face not only Jake but her own emerging identity. Each choice now spiraled into potential that begged exploration, spiraling her closer to the heart of who she could become: a leader, a visionary, a voice of resilience. This path ahead seemed fraught with uncertainty, and yet, it beckoned with promise. Her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, her heart racing at the thought of what was to come. Would this be the moment that defined her? As Mary sat in her small, cluttered kitchen waiting for Jake, a blend of anxiety and determination swirled within her. The minutes crawled by, each tick of the clock amplifying her internal debate. What would happen if he rejected her idea? That thought clawed at the edges of her resolve, but she countered it with reminders of the supportive messages she'd received just hours before. Those brief exchanges grounded her, stoking the embers of her confidence. She took a deep breath, channeling her nervous energy into preparing her notes. Bullet points detailed the concept for community involvement, the timeline she envisioned, and potential tasks that would engage local support. Yet every draft felt underwhelming. The details flickered in and out of focus. How could she articulate the passion that had ignited within her since she had lifted that paint scraper from the shop floor? This wasn't merely about peeling back paint. It was about unearthing a vision that struggled for breath beneath layers of doubt and fear. Just then the doorbell rang, and a jolt of adrenaline coursed through her. It was now or never. She opened the door and welcomed Jake inside, his casual demeanor doing little to ease her tension. After quick pleasantries, they settled at the table. She could sense his curiosity as he scanned the scattered sketches and lists elements of her burgeoning ethos spread visually across the room. "Looks like you've been busy," he remarked, his tone light as he leaned closer to examine her work. Mary seized upon his comment as momentum. "I have actually," she started, her voice steady amid the storm of doubt raging within. "I want to talk to you about something important. That flyer I posted? I want to have people come in and help revitalize the shop. Not just physically, but also by sharing their memories and passion." Jake's eyebrows knitted together, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his expression. "So you're thinking of a group project? That seems ambitious." His hesitance shot an icy thrill through her. She steadied her breath. "Right, but it's not just a project, it's a narrative we can build together. I see it as an opportunity to create a connection between the past and the present. What my father built meant a lot to people. We can honor that while bringing it into the current era. I want this to be a space where people feel they belong again." "Okay, but you're also risking a lot of energy for something that depends on their participation," he replied, weighing his words carefully. "What if they don't show? What if it becomes overwhelming?" Each question erupted within her like a haunting echo. She pulled her thoughts into focus. What if that's the point? What if it becomes overwhelming but builds us stronger? I need someone like you to help navigate that intensity, to share frustrations and victories, to recalibrate course when needed. He leaned back, considering her passion, the sincerity illuminating her words. Moments stretched, fragile silence filled with tension and possibility. "You really believe in this, don't you?" "Absolutely." Her heart surged, pushing away lingering doubts. "This is my chance to rediscover not only the shop but myself. I won't let uncertainty immobilize me." The corners of Jake's mouth twitched in a smile, his expression softening. "I can see how much this means to you, Mary. Could work if we tackle it together." Tentatively, he began to lay out the prospects, sharing his thoughts on logistics and even potential volunteers he had seen around town. Mary felt her pulse quicken as the conversation shifted toward practicality. The flicker of doubt she'd felt earlier began to fade, replaced by a rekindled sense of purpose. As they mapped out next steps, a realization settled within her. She was no longer merely embracing her father's legacy. She was actively sculpting her own future. Confidence began to form not only from the idea itself but from her ability to articulate it and garner support. But just as everything began to feel solid, a new wave of apprehension pushed to the forefront. What if her father's shadows loomed too large to escape? What if the memories became entangled with her aspirations in ways she couldn't foresee? Night fell as they continued strategizing, and she felt the cool grip of fear creep back in. However tantalizing the horizon appeared, she couldn't shake the worries that accompanied her climb. After wrapping up, Mary took a moment to lean back in her chair. She was chasing a vision, a reality that could burst forth if nurtured. Yet the specter of her father's legacy loomed over her efforts. Would she indeed carve out her identity through this venture, or would the weight of expectation drown her ambitions before they ever took flight? Through silent reflection, the question lurked. Was she truly ready to confront the intricacies of her past as she forged into her future? The weight of that realization pressed against her nerves, a thick fog of uncertainty that had yet to lift. But in the heart of that uncertainty, the encouragement from Jake validated her pursuit. With their plans set and resolve renewed, she felt the shift within her. The challenge was laid at her feet. Could she embrace this moment and redefine what it meant to carry her father's legacy forward? The answer rested tonight, one that demanded the courage to forge ahead despite shadows that whispered of her limitations. As these thoughts churned within her, a text notification jolted her back to the present. It was an unexpected message from Greg. Would the content be another query that threatened her confidence? Or perhaps a chance to rally around what she held dear? The thought alone sent a shiver down her spine, amplifying the sense of urgency as she prepared to confront yet another layer of her journey. Mary's heart raced as she read Greg's message a second time, her pulse quickening with each word. It was a simple inquiry, wanting to discuss a recent project of his, nothing urgent, but there was an underlying tension that amplified her anxiety. Could this be her father's voice whispering doubt in her ear? Or was it simply a call to discuss the realities they navigated? The emotional stakes felt higher now. Greg had always served as a reminder of how deeply intertwined her every gesture was with her family legacy. Grappling with the past weighed heavily on her. Refusing to ignore Greg's invitation, she stared at the screen, preparing to respond. Yet, within her mind, a storm brewed. What if she inadvertently marked herself as unworthy in his eyes? Could she convey her vision without dilution, without the shadows of expectations clouding her message? Instead of typing an immediate reply, she stood up, paced around the cramped kitchen, taking in the faint scent of turpentine from her recent painting attempts. Each step grounded her. Yet the indecision was undeniable. Fear choked her instinct to be proactive. Should she suppose Greg might want reassurance of her support for his projects? Or was this a subtle glance into judgment, probing her readiness to claim her space in the family legacy? Just breathe, she muttered, settling on her decision. Unfolding a piece of paper, she began jotting down thoughts for her response, letting her fingers glide freely across the page. Articulating her commitment was foundational. She needed to express that this venture was as much about healing and collaboration as it was about confronting her past. Suddenly, the fading sunlight filtered through the window, painting warm colors across the walls, illuminating memories of laughter and unity that surrounded her childhood. The once vibrant shop, now dilapidated, echoed with potential. She envisioned unlocking those memories, transforming them into a mosaic of shared experiences. Mary took a moment, realizing this was her journey, fortified by her father's spirit but distinct from his shadows. With renewed vigor, she crafted her response to Greg. It embraced her desire to be part of discussions, opening pathways of understanding between her goals and his. Her hesitation melted away as she tapped the screen, sending the message with an unexpected flourish. Sending that was easy, she whispered with a chuckle of disbelief. Yet, lurking beneath her satisfaction was that familiar unease. Would he understand, accept her fresh ambition, or drown her in familial doubt? Questions spiraled as she contemplated past confrontations and the weight of expectations from her family. Her phone buzzed again, a quick reply from Greg flashing across the screen. "How about we meet tomorrow? I want to hear more about what you're planning for the shop. I'm curious how we might align our visions. Your heart's in this, and that matters." This burst of support transported her to an exhilarating precipice. Suddenly, everything felt possible. She envisioned sharing her vision of reclaiming the shop, rallying stories, wisdom, and creativity. But a shadowed thought flickered through her mind. What if Greg had an alternative vision, one that revolved around solidifying the past rather than redefining it? The next morning arrived quicker than she anticipated, a mix of eagerness and trepidation swirling like the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Still, the gnawing fear lingered. What if Greg's idea clashed with her own? As she dressed, she noticed her reflection, determined eyes staring back at her. She was not the hesitant daughter stuck in the shadows. She was a woman poised to confront her legacy in her way. As she prepared to leave, Mary hesitated at the door. The air outside crackled with potential. Her pulse thrummed with both anxiety and determination. Standing at the threshold of this new venture, she felt that she was on the cusp of something profound, a shift that could define her existence. But doubt twisted a quiet reminder of the walls that encased her. Would she allow herself to be overshadowed yet again? What if the meeting churned deeper fears rather than ambitions? With her heart steering her, she knew instinctively that today could change everything. Taking a deep breath, Mary stepped through the door, ready to confront Greg and the future that awaited her. Yet, in the depths of that anticipation loomed a question. Was her determination strong enough to rise above what was expected of her and truly forge the legacy she envisioned? The din of the bustling cafe filled Mary's senses as she scanned the room, her heart fluttering with a cocktail of hope and anxiety. The scent of fresh pastries mingled with the aroma of rich coffee, but all she could focus on was the impending conversation with Greg. She arrived early, wishing for a few moments to steel herself before confronting the questions swirling in her mind. Would he honor her vision? Or would this meeting descend into a recalibration of expectations? Sipping her coffee, she let her gaze drift over the cafe's art-filled walls, each piece evoking feelings of inspiration and creativity that contrasted starkly with the doubts clouding her own ambitions. It was a reminder of why she had sent that text, why every brush stroke on canvas fueled her need for transformation. She craved to resurrect not just the building's physical essence, but also the collective spirit it once housed. Just then the bell above the door jingled, and there he was, Greg, a familiar face transformed by the power of new aspirations. He approached with a warm smile, his demeanor bright yet layered with the subtle tension she recognized from their past interactions. As he slid into the chair opposite her, she caught a glimmer of expectation in his eyes, challenging her to articulate the depths of her vision. "Thanks for meeting me, Mary," he said, breaking the ice as he leaned forward, hands clasped. "I've been thinking about what you want to do with the shop. It's an incredible space with so much potential." "Thank you for being open to this discussion," she replied, surprised at how steady her voice sounded, almost grounded. As she unfolded her plans, Mary painted a picture of the shop's revival, a communal canvas where art, storytelling, and personal narratives intertwined. She spoke of creating workshops that motivated people to reflect on their own creativity and share their unique stories. The words flowed more freely than she expected, each idea igniting a spark that propelled her current state beyond expectation. Yet, Greg's expression wavered as she outlined her vision. "That sounds fantastic, but you know the history tied to that place, the way it was run in the past. You might face resistance if you drift too far from what benefited our family before." A gumption surged through Mary, almost instinctual. "Can we afford not to embrace change? The legacy you're referring to is built on the past, but this is our chance to redefine it. The stories we tell matter, even if they shift from what's familiar." Her declaration hung in the air, the weight of her challenge pulsing between them. She could see Greg wrestle with her words, grappling with the pull of tradition and the allure of innovation. "I get what you mean," he finally replied, the shadow of conflict still cast over his brow. "But my concern is the risk. It's a delicate balance, Mary. How long can we balance on a line we didn't create?" She pressed, feeling emboldened. Each word felt transformative, not just for her but as a demand for the space to challenge generational norms. A vulnerable silence enveloped them, during which Greg's gaze softened. "You're fiercely passionate. It's impressive, and I want to support you. Let us consider ways to blend our ideas without losing sight of where we originated. After all, you're not just my sister. You're an artist with your vision." Mary felt her heart leap at the notion of being seen not just as an extension of their family, but as a distinct force capable of shaping their shared legacy. But doubt still gnawed at her. Would collaboration morph into compromise? Was she willing to sacrifice parts of her dream for the sake of navigating family connections? As they laid out a potential framework for the shop, invigorated by the exchange, Mary internally recharged her determination. Holding on to her passionate vision would not falter even as she embraced the idea of collaboration with her brother. Yet, as they wrapped up their meeting and began to discuss concrete steps ahead, a troubling thought intruded. Was navigating this new partnership simply laying a path towards familiar entrapments dressed in different garments? Tonight would bring new clarity, but for now she needed to focus. The shadows of doubt were ever present, but so was the glimmer of possibility. As Mary stepped back into the world outside, she pondered a pressing question. How would her commitment to evolve the family legacy shift the very foundation of their relationship, the one she was desperate to redefine without losing herself in the process? The bustling streets outside the cafe wrapped around Mary like a whirlwind, each passing moment engulfing her in a chaotic blend of anticipation and trepidation. The weight of her conversation with Greg settled heavily on her shoulders, intertwining with the resolve that had ignited earlier. She walked with purpose, her mind racing as she processed what had transpired, both exhilarated and apprehensive about the potential for her vision to come to life. As she stepped into her small studio later that evening, the familiar creaks of the floorboards welcomed her. The walls were lined with her art, each piece a manifestation of her thoughts and emotions, windows to her soul that would help her navigate the tumultuous waters ahead. She paused in front of her largest canvas, an unfinished portrayal of the shop that represented everything she yearned to create. It had been a sanctuary of dreams before adulthood cloaked her in practicality. With her heart racing, she picked up a brush, the bristles damp with vibrant paint. Each stroke on the canvas was a reflection of her conversation with Greg, her ambitious plans spilling from her mind into physical color. She layered hues thoughtfully, feeling liberated as the brush danced across the canvas, creating not just a visual but an embodiment of her aspirations. Yet, lurking beneath this bliss was the persistent echo of doubt. Could she really fuse her ideas with Greg's concerns? Would he truly support her endeavors without imposing restrictions that could stifle her creativity? The question clawed at her, a reminder that every transformation demanded sacrifices. She had always been the dreamer. Could she balance that with the pragmatism that family history insisted upon? Once the painting neared completion, she fell onto her paint-splattered couch, staring at the work before her. The unfinished canvas mirrored her aspirations, both raw and ripe with potential yet so fragile against the tides of opposition. As the evening wore on, thoughts turned inward. What if, in trying to respect traditional legacies, she smothered her own developing identity? The weight of her realization shifted, sparking further determination. Mary began to formulate an approach, envisioning how she could respectfully present her ideas to Greg, while firmly asserting her voice. Perhaps clarity came not solely from confrontation, but through collaboration. She could prime Greg for change by gradually introducing him to her artistic vision and its relevance in today's world. But that would require precision. She needed to unveil her plans with strategic care. What if she created a pilot workshop, an intimate gathering with friends who could channel their narratives through art? It would serve as proof of concept, showcasing the impact such an experience could yield within the community, while staying true to their familial roots. As the night deepened, questions settled in her mind. Would Greg be receptive to a test run? Would her family regard it as a successful evolution of their legacy? As she pulled out a notebook to scribble initial ideas and potential structures for this pilot workshop, she felt a seismic shift within. Every revelation crafted a clearer path forward, stitching together her aspirations with a strategy that felt both personal and profound. Just as excitement began to swell within her, a sudden wave of fear crashed over her. What if her efforts were dismissed outright? The thought chilled her, slicing through the warmth of inspiration. She would need to confront this fear head-on, and soon. With dawn breaking the next day, the anticipation of presenting her idea stoked the remnants of her anxieties. Containing both hope and fear, Mary stood at a crossroads, a commitment to unveiling her true self waiting to spill vibrant and transforming into the world around her. As she prepared to meet Greg again, she couldn't shake the feeling that change was churning, ready to unearth something powerful between them, a fracture in their past that could either bind them or break them apart. Would she find the strength to navigate through this turbulence and emerge as the architect of her legacy, or would she slip back into the shadows of doubt unresolved? Mary awakened with steely resolve, the rise of dawn illuminating the room around her. This was the day that would fortify her identity, marking the transition from her father's legacy into her own distinctive path. Her mind was a flurry of thought, not thoughts of past defeats, but rather of vibrant possibilities awaiting her presentation to Greg. She had prepared her pilot workshop outline and envisioned sharing not just her vision with him, but also a glimpse of the potential for their shared futures. As she arrived at the cafe, a familiar pulse of nervous excitement radiated through her. Her earlier conversations with Greg echoed in her mind, intertwining with her aspirations and fears. Today there would be no backtracking. This was her moment of emergence as an empowered leader. As she scanned the room, a wave of warmth washed over her when she spotted Greg. He looked up and nodded, a welcoming gesture that emboldened her resolve. "Thanks for meeting me again," she initiated, gratitude lacing her voice, grounding her before the weight of their discussion. "Of course. I've been thinking more about our last conversation," Greg replied, opening the door for her to share her vision. She felt a rush of energy, a trailblazing spirit urging her to step into her narrative with authenticity. Mary inhaled deeply before sharing her proposal for the workshop. "I want to create an environment where people can tell their stories and transform them through art, revitalizing the shop into a hub for community creativity," she explained, excitement framing each word. As Greg listened, she discerned a flicker of curiosity cross his face. "That's interesting," he said, leaning in, "but how do you think you'll attract people? It's easy to have an idea, but executing it is another challenge." "Exactly. That's why I wanted this first workshop to be an organic, intimate gathering, a way to invite family and friends as a pilot test. If it works, it could naturally grow by word of mouth," she asserted, feeling her heart resonate with her initiative. "All right, but what's the takeaway for them? What keeps them coming back?" Greg pressed, his analytic mind ready to challenge her. Mary paused, conjuring her memories of the artistry and joy related to her father's shop. "The takeaway isn't just about art. It's about connection, connecting memories, emotions, and creativity. People will feel a sense of belonging while honoring what this place stands for, and that's valuable." Each word solidified her determination, a visceral reminder of why this venture mattered so deeply to her. Greg nodded, silently absorbing her passion. "I see it now. It's much more holistic than I initially considered." She felt a surge of validation, his acknowledgement empowering her to push further. With each subsequent conversation, Mary articulated her belief in a revived legacy, a place that resonated with the past while forging forward into the future. She laid out details, proposed schedules, potential activities, and a vision for how they could intertwine their ideas while valuing creativity, familial ties, and community love. "So if you're willing, I could help you design something robust yet flexible," Greg said, a hint of excitement tinging his tone. The prospect of collaboration sent shivers through Mary, mixing astonishment with gratitude. "Are you serious?" she asked, heart racing at the invitation to co-create, her earlier fears subsiding. "Absolutely. You're not just a legacy. You're building a future," he replied, underscoring their blossoming partnership. Their discussion veered into logistics, a shift that highlighted Mary's capacity to inspire and lead. She realized during this exchange that she was not just reclaiming a shop or her father's memory. She was establishing her identity as a creator and a leader. The conversations grew deeper as they strategized how to merge family ideals with her dream for the shop. As they stood to leave, anticipation crackled in the air. "Let's present this idea to the family together," Greg proposed, and the melding of their plans and ambitions sparked an undeniable momentum. A week later, in the shop, the workshop unfolded amid laughter and creativity, a blend of stories coming to life through art. People shared memories, connecting through brush strokes and shared experiences. It was transformative and palpable, the shop pulsing with energy, just as Mary had envisioned. In that moment of triumph, she witnessed her name take shape beyond the girl of the shop. She was becoming a woman who reclaimed agency over her narrative. Each connection drew her closer to Jake, now standing beside her, proud of her journey and recognizing how their paths could resonate with the myriad of narratives now unfolding within the shop. Finally, as the workshop concluded and they began to tidy the space, Mary turned to Greg and shared, "Thanks for believing in this." Her heart swelled with astonishment at how far she had come. "We did this together," he responded, a sincere smile spreading across his face. Mary's resolve solidified as she stepped into a new chapter, leaving behind the shadows of doubt. She had conquered her insecurities, achieved recognition for her creativity, and established herself as a leader, proving both to herself and to her family that she was much more than the past's perception. In the walls of her father's shop, she had carved out a legacy of her own, full of empowerment, creativity, and connection. As she looked at the vibrant paintings and the animated conversations enveloping her, she knew this wasn't just an achievement. This was fulfillment woven with purpose. Today would echo into tomorrow, a promise to herself, to her children, and to the community they would build together in this space. "Now I need you to act," Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.